Miss another payment, and we take something more valuable next time. Those words echoed in Maya's head as she crouched behind the dusty storage shelves, trembling. Her uniform was stained with soy sauce, her hands shaking so hard she could barely breathe. It wasn't a landlord after rent anymore. It was the collectors she'd borrowed from in desperation to pay for her sister's surgery. People who didn't believe in mercy. "Maya!" a man shouted, smashing a stack of plates. "We know you're back there. You missed your payment. Now we collect differently." Maya squeezed her eyes shut. She had nowhere to run. She was trapped. That's when she felt a tiny hand on her knee. She looked down, startled. A little boy in a miniature tuxedo was crouching next to her behind the rice sacks. He was pale, one hand pressed lightly against his chest, but his eyes were bright and curious. "Are they the bad guys?" he whispered. "Shoo!" Maya's voice shook. "Yes, please stay quiet." The boy adjusted his glasses. "Don't worry, I'm hiding too." Then, after a beat, "But you look scared. Sweetie, these men are dangerous," she whispered. "Really dangerous." He dug into his pocket and pulled out a small plastic ring with a green gem. Cheap, shiny, and held like treasure. "Then you need a shield," he said with absolute conviction. "Will you marry me, pretty lady?" Maya blinked, stunned by the absurdity of it. "What?" "My daddy says marriage is protection," the boy insisted. "If you marry me, nobody will ever bother you. I can protect you." Before Maya could answer, the storage door burst open. A man filled the doorway, furious. "Found you." Maya didn't think. She threw herself over the boy to cover him. "Don't touch her," the boy shouted. And then a calm voice sliced through the chaos. "Step away from my son." A tall man in a bespoke suit stood in the doorway. No bodyguards, no weapon, just absolute authority. "Who are you?" the collector sneered. "Another broke waiter?" The man didn't flinch. "I'm Kang Jun-ho," he said evenly. "The man who just bought this building 5 minutes ago because I didn't like the service." He held up his phone. "And I also happen to own the company you work for, which means you're done here." The collector's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, turned pale, and stepped back in terror. Junho stepped past him like he wasn't there and looked down at Maya. "Minho," he said to the boy, "is this the woman?" The child nodded, still clutching Maya's hand. "Yes, Appa. She protected me, and I asked her to marry me so you can pay her bills." Junho studied her, terrified, exhausted, yet shielding his son with every ounce of strength she had left. "Accept the proposal," he said quietly. "We're leaving. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to never miss our heartwarming stories about fate bringing unlikely people together. Trust me, you'll want to see where this unexpected proposal leads. I used to dream of adventure when I was little. Dreamed of traveling the world, writing novels in Parisian cafes, finding love in unexpected places. I never dreamed of hiding in a restaurant storage room while men threatened to break my fingers over debt. I never dreamed of Seoul, Korea, so far from my home in Chicago that sometimes I wake up not knowing where I am. But that's what happens when dreams collide with reality. Reality always wins. It began with my mother's funeral. Standing there in the rain, holding my sister Taya's hand while they lowered the casket. My fiancé David's arm around my shoulders. His whispered promises that we'd get through this together. The weight of my mother's medical bills in my purse. Bills that had drained our savings. Bills that kept coming even though she was gone. The funeral flowers weren't even wilted before the collection calls started. Then came Taya's diagnosis 3 months later. Lupus, aggressive, painful, expensive. The treatment protocol cost more than I made in a year teaching high school English. More than our insurance would cover. The specialist explained her options with clinical detachment while I frantically calculated numbers in my head. How many extra shifts? How much could we get for Mom's house? What would selling my car yield? David left a week later. "I can't do this," he said. slipping my engagement ring back into my palm outside the hospital where Taya was receiving her first treatment. I can't build a life on medical debt. As if love came with financial prerequisites. As if my sister's illness was a choice. The diamond that had once symbolized our future suddenly felt cold and worthless in my hand. I took the teaching job in Seoul because it paid double what I made in Chicago. I picked up evening shifts at Seoul Palace Restaurant because every extra one meant another treatment for Taya. Another step toward remission. I was making it work. I was surviving. Living in a tiny one-room apartment with a shower that barely fit my frame. Sending almost every penny home. Surviving on staff meals and determination. Until Taya's kidneys started failing. Until the doctors said she needed surgery immediately. Until I found myself signing papers with a private lender, agreeing to terms I knew were predatory because what choice did I have? Let my sister die? The interest rates were criminal, the collection methods worse, but the money transferred to Chicago the same day. Taya got her surgery, and I got a ticking time bomb of debt. So there I was, hiding among sacks of rice while collectors demanded payment and a little boy in a tuxedo proposed marriage. There I was, being swept into a black Mercedes by a man who seemed to control the world with a few taps on his phone. There I was, watching Seoul's glittering skyline blur past the tinted windows while trying to process what had just happened. The car glided through Seoul's evening traffic in silence. Minho sat pressed against my side, his small hand still holding mine like it belonged there. Kang Jun-ho watched us from across the leather seat, his face unreadable. The silence stretched until it felt physical, pressing against my skin. "You protected my son," he finally said. "Why?" I looked down at Minho, then back at his father. "Because that's what humans do. Protect children." "Not in my experience," Junho replied, his voice so neutral it felt dangerous. "In my experience, people use children, manipulate them, exploit their vulnerabilities." "Then you know terrible people?" I said before I could stop myself. Minho giggled, then quickly covered his mouth when his father's eyes flickered to him. But there was something in that look. Not anger, something softer. Something that cracked the perfect facade for just a moment. "Your debt," Junho continued, redirecting. "How much?" My cheeks burned with shame. 20 million won. The figure that had haunted my dreams for months fell from my lips like a confession. He didn't blink at the amount that had consumed my every waking thought. He simply took out his phone, made a few taps, then slid it back into his pocket. "It's handled." "I can't accept that," I said automatically, pride rising through my shock. "You already did," he replied. "When you shielded my son with your body from a man you believed would hurt him. I would have done that for any child. That makes it more valuable, not less." He turned to look out the window. "I'll have my driver take you home." "No." Minho's voice was surprisingly strong for such a small body. "She's coming home with us. She's my fiancée now." Junho sighed, a small crack in his perfect composure. "Minho, Miss Johnson," I supplied. "Maya Johnson. Miss Johnson surely has her own home, her own life." Minho's lower lip trembled. "But she's scared. Those men will find her again. She needs us to protect her." He turned those enormous eyes on me. "Don't you want to see where we live?" "I have a whole room just for my dinosaurs." I should have said no. Should have insisted they drop me at my tiny apartment. Should have walked away from the strangest encounter of my life with my debt cleared and my dignity intact. Instead, I heard myself say, "I'd love to see your dinosaurs." The relief in Minho's smile was so pure it hurt. "See, Appa? She wants to come." Junho studied me for a long moment, then inclined his head slightly. 1 hour. Then we'll arrange transportation home." I had seen wealthy homes before. My high school boyfriend's family had a mansion on Chicago's North Shore. I'd attended faculty gatherings at my college dean's elegant brownstone. I thought I understood what money looked like. I was wrong. Kang Jun-ho's penthouse occupied the entire top floor of Seoul's most exclusive address. The elevator opened directly into a foyer larger than my entire apartment, all gleaming marble and subtle lighting. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the glittering cityscape like it was art commissioned specially for him. Every piece of furniture looked like it belonged in a museum, beautiful, untouchable, perfect. Minho tugged me eagerly toward a hallway. "Come see my dinosaurs." His room was the only space that looked lived in. A child's paradise. Custom bookshelves filled with English and Korean titles, a bed shaped like a triceratops, and an entire wall dedicated to a museum-quality display of dinosaur models. Drawings hung on the walls, slightly crooked. Stuffed animals populated a reading nook. Here was evidence that a child actually lived in this pristine showcase of wealth. But what caught my attention were the medical supplies discreetly arranged on a bedside table. An oxygen monitor, medication bottles, a small nebulizer, a chart with times and dosages in precise handwriting. Minho followed my gaze. "Those are for my heart," he explained matter-of-factly. "It doesn't work right." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, kneeling to his level. He shrugged with the remarkable resilience of children. "Appa's getting me a new one. He says money can buy anything if you want it badly enough." The simplicity of his faith in his father's power made my throat tight. I glanced toward the doorway to find Junho watching us, his expression guarded. "Minho, time for your medication," he said. "Miss Johnson and I will wait in the living room." After a nurse appeared to help Minho with his evening routine, Junho led me to a seating area overlooking the Han River. He poured himself a drink but didn't offer me one. The message was clear: I wasn't a guest. I was a temporary anomaly in their perfectly ordered world. "My son has hypoplastic left heart syndrome," he said without preamble. "He's been on the transplant list for 7 months. The clinical words couldn't hide the pain beneath them. "I'm so sorry. His condition is deteriorating," Junho continued, staring into his glass. "The doctors say without a transplant, he has perhaps 3 months." My heart contracted painfully. "And the chances of finding a donor? Statistically low, especially for his blood type." He took a sip of his drink, his composure so perfect it had to be practiced. "That's why I was at the restaurant tonight. There was a medical charity event next door. I stepped out to take a call, and Minho wandered off." "He said he was hiding from broccoli," I said, remembering the boy's first words to me. Junho's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "His nanny is quite insistent about vegetables. He seems like an amazing kid." "He is." Pride and fear mingled in those 2 words. "Which is why what I'm about to propose will sound insane." I tensed. "I already told you I can't accept your money. This isn't about money. It's about Minho." Junho set down his glass and turned to face me fully. "In the past week, he's refused his medication twice. Told his doctors he's tired of fighting. Asked me if I'd be okay if he went to be with Iyama." His voice nearly broke on the Korean word for mother. "His mother," I began carefully, "died when he was 3. Cancer." Junho's jaw tightened. He barely remembers her, but he worries about me being alone. About what will happen to me if he couldn't finish the sentence. Understanding began to dawn, horrifying and absurd. "Mr. Kang, surely you're not suggesting—" "Tonight is the first time he's shown real enthusiasm in months," Junho interrupted. "The first time he's thought about the future instead of the end. Because he thinks we're engaged," I said slowly. "Which is, obviously, a misunderstanding I want to maintain, temporarily." I stared at him, certain I'd misheard. "You want me to pretend to be your son's fiancé? A complete stranger?" "No." His gaze was unwavering. "I want you to be my fiancé, a woman my son has already connected with. Someone who might give him a reason to keep fighting while we find a donor." Anger flared hot in my chest. "You can't be serious. You don't know me. I could be anyone. You're Maya Johnson, 27, from Chicago. English teacher at Seoul International Academy. Older sister to Taya Johnson, currently undergoing treatment for lupus at Northwestern Memorial. Your mother died of a stroke last year, leaving substantial medical debt. Your ex-fiancé David Miller left you shortly after your sister's diagnosis. You took loans from private lenders to cover her recent kidney surgery. You have no criminal record, an excellent teaching record, and reviews from your students describe you as kind but firm. My mouth went dry. You had me investigated in the car ride? I protect what matters to me, he said simply. Minho matters most. This is insane, I whispered, rising from my seat. You're asking me to lie to a dying child. I'm asking you to give him hope. Junho's perfect composure slipped just slightly. I have tried everything medicine can offer, everything money can buy. None of it is working. But you, a woman he just met, made him smile. Made him think about protection instead of being protected. Made him believe in a future. It's wrong, I insisted, even as my resolve weakened. The desperation beneath his controlled exterior was painfully familiar. How many ethical lines had I crossed for Taya's sake? What's wrong is watching your child give up, Junho said, his voice raw. What's wrong is knowing you'd tear the world apart to save them, and it still isn't enough. The pain in those words hit too close to home. Wasn't that exactly what I was doing for Taya? Tearing my world apart to save her? What would this arrangement involve? I asked, hating myself for even considering it. You would move into the guest suite, be present for Minho daily, accompany us to his appointments, let him believe we're building a future together. And in return, your debts cleared, your sister's full treatment covered, guaranteed admission to Seoul National University's graduate program when this is over. My head spun at the enormity of what he was offering. Taya's future secured, my own crushing debt erased, and all for pretending to love a man I just met and a boy who already had my heart. How long? I asked, my voice barely audible. 3 months. Until we find a donor. Or until. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. And afterward? When it's over. You walk away with everything promised. No strings. I stared out at the glittering city below, thinking of Taya fighting for her life across the ocean. Thinking of Minho and his plastic ring, his absolute certainty that he could protect me. Thinking of this powerful man brought to his knees by the one thing money couldn't fix. Okay, I said finally, but I have conditions. Junho raised an eyebrow, waiting. I don't want your money for myself. Just cover Taya's treatments and my current debts. And I want to work. Teach Minho or something. I won't be kept. Acceptable. And we need rules. Boundaries. This isn't real, and we both need to remember that. Something flickered in Junho's eyes. Of course. One more thing. I met his gaze directly. Don't lie to me. About Minho's condition, about your expectations, about any of it. I need complete honesty. Junho considered this, then nodded once. Complete honesty. You have my word. And just like that, I agreed to marry a billionaire I'd known for less than 2 hours, to mother a dying child I'd met hiding among rice sacks, to step into a life so far removed from my own it might as well have been a different planet. Minho's delighted squeal when we told him I was staying echoed in my ears as a housekeeper showed me to the guest suite. A space larger than my entire apartment, with a bathroom bigger than my childhood bedroom. As I stared at my reflection in the marble-framed mirror, I hardly recognized the woman looking back. Maya Johnson, from the south side of Chicago, now fake engaged to one of the wealthiest men in Korea. What are you doing? I whispered to my reflection, but I already knew the answer. I was doing exactly what I'd always done, putting someone else's survival before my own happiness, trading my future for someone else's chance to have one. The only difference was, this time I wasn't sure if I was being selfless or selfish. The story is just heating up. If you're loving Maya's journey, show your support by hitting the like button and sharing with friends who appreciate stories of unexpected love and second chances. The road ahead for these 3 wounded souls is about to get much more complicated. I woke the next morning disoriented in unfamiliar luxury. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows I hadn't thought to cover. The bed was so soft I felt like I was floating on a cloud. For one blissful moment, I couldn't remember where I was or why. Then reality crashed back. I had agreed to pretend to be engaged to Kang Jun-ho. I had agreed to give his dying son hope of a family. I had agreed to lie. A soft knock interrupted my spiraling thoughts. Minho stood in the doorway, already dressed in his school uniform, clutching a dinosaur plushie. "Good morning, Mayonuna," he said brightly, using the Korean term for big sister. "Appa said I should let you sleep, but I wanted to show you my schedule so you know when I'll be home." He thrust a color-coded printout toward me. I sat up, tugging my borrowed nightshirt, silk, because of course it was, over my knees. "That's very thoughtful, Minho." He beamed at the praise, then climbed onto the bed beside me, pointing at different time blocks. "I have school until 2, but I have to leave early on Tuesdays and Thursdays for doctor appointments. And sometimes I get too tired, so Mississippi Park brings me home." "Mississippi Park?" "My home tutor. She helps me keep up with schoolwork when I miss days." He looked up at me hopefully. "But maybe you can teach me now? Appa says you're an English teacher." I felt a pang at how easily Junho had worked me into their lives, as if I'd always belonged there. "We'll see. I need to talk to your Appa about that." Minho nodded seriously. "He's already at work. He leaves at 5:30 every day." The matter-of-fact way he said it made my heart ache. What kind of life did this child have, with a father who left before dawn and a mother long gone? "Do you eat breakfast alone?" "Mrs. Kim makes it. She's the housekeeper." He fidgeted with his dinosaur. "Sometimes Appa has breakfast with me on Sundays if he doesn't have meetings." Just then, a stern-faced woman appeared in the doorway. "Min Hoya, you'll be late for school." Minho sighed dramatically. "That's Mrs. Choi. She drives me to school and makes me eat vegetables." "Very important job," I said solemnly. He rolled his eyes in a way that was so perfectly childlike, so at odds with his illness, that I had to swallow against the tightness in my throat. "Will you be here when I get home?" he asked, suddenly vulnerable. "Yes," I promised. "I'll be here." His face brightened instantly. "Good. I want to show you my dinosaur books. I have 27. After he left, I found clothing in the closet that somehow fit me perfectly, simple, elegant pieces in exactly my size. A note on the kitchen counter informed me that Junho would return at 7 for dinner, and that I was free to use anything in the apartment. A credit card with my name on it sat beside the note. I ignored the card but explored the penthouse, trying to understand the man I'd agreed to pretend to love. The space was immaculate, designed with masculine precision. Lots of steel and glass and dark wood. But there were touches of warmth, too, all centered around Minho. His artwork framed in the hallway. His school photos prominently displayed in the living room. A wall of achievement certificates in what appeared to be Junho's home office. But of Minho's mother, there was almost no trace. Just a single photo in Minho's room of a beautiful woman with his same bright eyes. Mrs. Kim, the housekeeper, appeared at noon with lunch. She regarded me with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "Mr. Kang says you will be teaching Minho English," she said in careful English. I nodded. "Apparently so. Minho is very special boy. Very sick." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Many people want to use this to get close to Mr. Kang." I understood then that she was warning me, protecting her employer from what she perceived as a gold digger. "I'm not interested in Mr. Kang's money," I said honestly. "I'm only here for Minho." She studied me for a moment, then nodded once. "His backpack is in the front closet. He has vocabulary test tomorrow. Page 42 in Blue Book." It was as close to approval as I was likely to get. When Minho returned from school, his face lit up seeing me at the dining table. "You're really here," he exclaimed, as if he'd half expected me to disappear. "I promised, didn't I?" I smiled. "And I hear we have a vocabulary test to study for." We spent the afternoon reviewing English words, building a fort in the living room, to Mrs. Kim's barely concealed horror, and looking through his dinosaur books. Minho was brilliant, quick, curious, with the kind of mind that made connections most adults missed. But I also noticed how quickly he tired, how he pressed his hand to his chest when he laughed too hard, how he carefully monitored his own exertion. This child knew exactly how sick he was. He'd learned to live within the boundaries his failing heart imposed. At 6:55, the elevator announced Junho's return. Minho scrambled to dismantle the fort, suddenly anxious. "Appa doesn't like mess," he explained, frantically shoving pillows back onto the couch. "It's not a mess, it's a fort," I countered, staying right where I was among the cushions. "And it's a very good one." Junho entered to find his immaculate living room transformed and his son frozen in guilty panic. His eyes moved from Minho to me, still sitting cross-legged on the floor surrounded by pillows and dinosaur books. "I see you've been busy," he said, his tone unreadable. Minho rushed to explain. "It was my idea, Appa. Maya was helping me study, and I got tired, so we built the finest fortress in Seoul. I finished for him, rising to my feet, impenetrable to all invaders, especially those who might object to a little creative disorder." Something flickered in Junho's eyes. Surprise, certainly, but something else too. Challenge, maybe, or amusement. "Is that so?" he said, setting down his briefcase. "And what makes this fortress so impenetrable?" Minho's eyes widened at his father's unexpected engagement. "We have a password. And dinosaur guards. Very effective against corporate attorneys," I added solemnly. Junho's mouth twitched. "Indeed." He surveyed the fort again. "Perhaps I might be permitted to enter this stronghold after dinner? If the dinosaur guards approve." Minho's face transformed with delight. "Really, Appa? You want to see inside?" "Of course," Junho said softly. "I want to see everything that makes you happy." The moment was so genuine, so unexpectedly tender, that I felt like an intruder. This wasn't the cold, calculating businessman who had proposed our arrangement. This was a father desperately trying to connect with his son. Dinner was a surprisingly relaxed affair. Junho listened intently as Minho described our day, asking thoughtful questions about what he'd learned. I watched their interaction, noting the way Junho subtly monitored his son's eating, the way his eyes tracked every wince or pause for breath. After Minho was tucked into bed, Junho invited me onto the terrace with a glass of wine. "Thank you," he said without preamble. I haven't seen him this animated in months. I traced the rim of my glass. "He's an incredible kid." Yes. Pride colored that single word. The doctors always told us he wouldn't have a normal childhood, that we should manage expectations, prepare for limitations. Junho's gaze fixed on the distant horizon. "But he defies every limitation they set. Like his father," I observed. "I looked you up today. Self-made billionaire by 30, orphaned at 16. Full scholarship to Seoul National, then Harvard Business." Junho's expression shuddered slightly. "You've been investigating me. Turnabout is fair play, isn't it?" I took a sip of wine. "If I'm going to pretend to love you, I should at least know who I'm pretending to love." His eyes met mine, dark and unreadable. "And what have you decided?" "That you're a man who built walls so high nobody can see over them. Except Minho." Junho was silent for a long moment. "When you have nothing, you learn quickly that the world sees vulnerability as an invitation to take what little you have left. And now that you have everything?" "Now I have one thing that matters," he corrected. "One thing I cannot lose." We both knew he meant Minho. "Tell me about his mother," I said, changing the subject slightly. "Minho says he barely remembers her." Pain flashed across Junho's face before he controlled it. Seo-yun was a pianist. We met at a charity concert. She was performing, I was sponsoring. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "She told me my donation was generous, but my suit was terrible." "She sounds wonderful." She was. Junho stared into his wine. She was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer 3 months after Minho was born. We had 2 years of treatments, remissions, recurrences. She died when he was 3. I'm so sorry. The cruel irony is that Minho's heart condition is congenital, but the symptoms didn't become severe until after she was gone. His voice hardened. She never knew he was sick. That he might. He cut himself off. Follow her, I finished quietly. Junho's eyes closed briefly. When they opened, the pain was locked away again, his composure perfect. You should know that the media will have pictures of you by morning. My security team has already intercepted 2 photographers trying to get access to the building. The abrupt change of subject gave me whiplash. What? Someone at the restaurant recognized me. News that I brought a woman home will spread quickly. By tomorrow, you'll be headline news. Panic flooded me. But I have a job, students. Already handled. The academy has granted you a leave of absence. Fully paid, of course. I bristled at his high-handedness. You had no right to make that decision for me. Would you prefer to subject your students to paparazzi? Junho asked coolly. Because that's what would happen. My life is not private, Maya. Nothing connected to me stays private for long. And that doesn't bother you? Living under constant scrutiny. It's the price of power, he said simply. One I accepted long ago. I thought of my quiet life in Chicago, my tiny Seoul apartment, the anonymity I'd always taken for granted. And now I'm paying it too. Junho studied me. Second thoughts already? Just realizing what I've agreed to. I met his gaze directly. But I keep my promises, Mr. Kang. I told Minho I'd be here when he came home, and I will be. Every day. Something like respect flickered in Junho's eyes. Call me Junho. If we're engaged, formality will seem strange. Junho, I repeated, testing the name. And how exactly did you propose to me, in this fictional romance of ours? For the first time, I saw genuine amusement cross his face. I believe my 5-year-old son handled that part with a vending machine ring. Despite everything, the absurdity of our situation, the gravity of Minho's illness, the weight of what I'd agreed to, I found myself laughing. After a moment, Junho joined me, his deep chuckle surprising and warm. In that moment, on a penthouse terrace high above Seoul, with the city glittering below us like fallen stars, I could almost believe the fantasy we were creating. Almost believe that a man like him could fall for a woman like me, that a little boy's innocent proposal could transform into something real. Almost. But reality has a way of asserting itself, cold and unmerciful. And the reality was that Minho was dying, that Junho was paying me to pretend, that my sister still needed me, that none of this was real. I just had to remember that. The next morning, Junho was right. My face was splashed across Korean news sites and tabloids. Mystery woman captures Korea's most eligible bachelor. American teacher steals billionaire's heart. Kang Jun-ho's secret romance revealed. The articles were speculative, invasive, filled with sources close to the couple, who didn't exist, in details about our relationship that were pure fiction. Photos showed me entering Junho's building, looking shell-shocked and disheveled. Side-by-side comparisons with his late wife analyzed our appearances with cruel precision. Worst were the comments. Gold digger. Opportunist. He downgraded. What does he see in her? Minho found me staring at my phone in horror. Are you reading the bad things? He asked, climbing onto the sofa beside me. Appa says people are jealous because we're happy. Quickly put my phone down. Just catching up on news. Minho gave me a look far too knowing for his age. Mrs. Kim says you're too pretty and that's why the magazines are being mean. I couldn't help but smile. Did she really? He nodded earnestly. She says Appa needed someone with fire because he's too cold. He leaned against my side. What's fire mean? Like you start fires. I laughed despite myself. It means passion. Strong feelings. Oh, he considered this. Appa has strong feelings. He just hides them because of business. The child's insight into his father was startling. Does he? Minho nodded. Halmini says feelings are weakness. But Appa told me that's not true. He says feelings are like superpowers, dangerous if you don't control them, but really strong if you do. Your appa is very wise. Minho beamed at the praise of his father. He's the smartest person in the whole world. He's going to find me a new heart because the old one doesn't listen. The simple faith in his father's ability to fix even this tore at my heart. I'm sure he's doing everything he can. He is, Minho agreed. But now he has you to help him. Two people can find a heart faster than one. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Minho, you know I'm not really a doctor, right? I can't help medically. I know. You help different. He patted my hand with the gravity of someone much older. You make him less sad. His eyes aren't so tired when you're here. Before I could respond to this startling observation, Junho appeared in the doorway, looking unusually casual in weekend attire. Dark jeans and a simple sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Am I interrupting? He asked. Minho bounced up. Maya says you have strong feelings but control them like superpowers. Junho's eyebrows rose. Does she now? Well, technically you said that, I corrected. According to your very observant son. Something soft flickered in Junho's expression as he looked at Minho. My son repeats everything he hears. A dangerous quality. I do not, Minho protested, then grinned. Except Mrs. Kim saying Maya is too pretty. Junho's eyes met mine over Minho's head. Mrs. Kim is very perceptive. The compliment, delivered so casually, caught me off guard. Was this part of our act? Or something else? I came to tell you both that my mother has invited us to lunch, Junho continued, his voice cooling noticeably. She's seen the news. Minho's excitement dimmed visibly. Does Halmione have to come? She always makes my heart hurt. The naked distress in the child's voice made Junho crouch immediately to his level. Your heart hurts? Physically? His hand went automatically to Minho's wrist, checking his pulse. No, Appa. Minho placed his small hand over his chest. Here. Because she makes you sad and that makes me sad. Junho's face softened in a way I hadn't seen before. Minhoya, my relationship with Halmione is complicated, but it doesn't need to make you sad. He glanced at me. Besides, we need to introduce her to Maya. Minho perked up. Can we show her the ring I gave Maya? I don't think, I began. Absolutely, Junho interrupted, a challenge in his eyes. Halmione should see the ring my son chose for his bride. The mischief in his voice was so unexpected, so at odds with his usual control, that I realized he was looking forward to his mother's reaction. This wasn't just about our arrangement. This was Junho using me to provoke his mother. Are you using me to annoy your mother? I asked after Minho ran off to change clothes. Using is such an unpleasant word, Junho replied, not denying it. Think of it as an added benefit of our arrangement. You didn't mention difficult family dynamics when you hired me. I didn't hire you. His voice hardened slightly. We made an arrangement, one that benefits us both. Semantics. Details matter in business, Miss Johnson. The formality was back, the brief moment of warmth gone. This isn't business, I countered. This is your son's happiness, his hope. That makes it personal, whether you admit it or not. Junho studied me for a long moment. You're right, he finally said. I apologize. The simple admission surprised me. Apology accepted. My mother is challenging, he continued. She believes appearances matter above all else. Bloodlines, social standing, family reputation. She opposed my marriage to Seo-yun because her family wasn't prominent enough. And she'll oppose me because I'm foreign, middle class, and currently trending as Seoul's most hated gold digger. Precisely. Junho's mouth quirked. Which is exactly why I'm looking forward to introducing you. My mother needs reminding that she doesn't control my life. Or Minho's. I crossed my arms. So I'm a statement. No. Junho stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell his subtle cologne. You're the woman who shielded my son with her body, who made him laugh when doctors couldn't even make him smile, who built forts in my living room and challenged me in my own home. His voice dropped. If my mother can't see your value, that's her failure, not yours. The intensity in his eyes made my breath catch. For a moment, the line between pretense and reality blurred dangerously. I had to remind myself that this was an act, a very good one, from a very successful man used to getting what he wanted. Just remember, I said, finding my voice, I didn't sign up to be caught in family warfare. Junho stepped back, the spell broken. Noted. Are you captivated by Maya's journey into the complex world of the Kang family? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more emotional stories that will touch your heart. Comment below what you think will happen when Maya meets Junho's mother. We read every single comment. Meeting Kang Misuk was every bit as uncomfortable as I anticipated. She received us in her traditional hanok home in an exclusive district, dressed in an elegant hanbok that probably cost more than a year of my teaching salary. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless, her posture rigid with disapproval. So this is the woman causing such a stir, she said in Korean, not bothering with English despite knowing I taught it. Junho replied in English, Mother, this is Maya Johnson, my fiancée. I bowed respectfully. It's an honor to meet you, Mrs. Kang. She switched to heavily accented English. American. No Korean family. No connections. A teacher. Each word dripped with disdain. Junho, you cannot be serious. I've never been more serious, he replied, his hand coming to rest at the small of my back. The warmth of it surprised me. Minho tugged at his grandmother's sleeve. Halmiani, look, I gave Maya a ring. He pointed proudly to the plastic vending machine ring I'd worn for his benefit. Misuk's eyes widened in horror at the cheap trinket. Junho, you allow this child to think this costume jewelry is appropriate for a Kang bride. I think it's perfect, Junho said mildly. Minho chose it himself. It's special because it's from Minho's heart, I added, unable to resist twisting the knife. That means more than any diamond. Misuk looked like she might faint. The media will have a field day. A Kang bride with a child's toy on her finger. Maya doesn't care about expensive things, Minho declared loyally. She likes me for myself, not for Appa's money. That's what makes her different. The room fell silent. Out of the mouths of babes, indeed. Misuk recovered first. Minho, go with Mrs. Park to the garden. The adults need to talk. She gestured to a silent woman who materialized to escort Minho out. Once he was gone, Misuk turned to Junho, switching back to rapid Korean. I caught only fragments, but her tone conveyed everything. Anger, disappointment, command. Junho listened impassively, then replied in English. Maya understands Korean better than you think, Mother. And yes, I am well aware of what I'm doing. Misuk's eyes narrowed. You dishonor Seo-yun's memory with this spectacle. I felt Junho tense beside me, though his face revealed nothing. My wife has been gone for 3 years. Minho needs a mother. He needs a proper Korean mother from a good family, not some foreign gold digger who seduced you for your money. Mother. Junho's voice turned dangerous. You will not speak of Maya that way. I'll speak truth to my son, Misuk snapped. This woman appears out of nowhere, and suddenly you're engaged? The Junho I raised is not so foolish. The Junho you raised died with Seo-yun, he replied coldly. The man before you puts his son's happiness above appearances, bloodlines, and yes, even your approval. Misuk turned to me, switching tactics. What do you want from my son? His money? His position? The Kang name? I met her gaze steadily. I want what you want, Mrs. Kang. For Minho to be happy and healthy. You know nothing of what my grandson needs. I know he needs hope, I said quietly. I know he needs joy. I know he's fighting a battle no child should face. And he's doing it with more courage than most adults I've met. Misuk's expression faltered slightly. I didn't come to Korea looking for your son or your family's wealth, I continued. But I found Minho hiding in a storage room, and he offered me a plastic ring and his heart. I'd be a fool to refuse either. For a moment, I glimpsed something beyond the rigid disapproval in Misuk's eyes. Fear, perhaps. Fear for her grandson, fear of losing her son further. "You will hurt him when you leave," she said finally. "And you will leave. Women like you always do." "Mother, enough," Junho interrupted. "No, it's all right," I said, touching his arm gently. "Mrs. Kang, I understand your concern. You want to protect your family from pain. But Minho is in pain already. Physical pain, emotional pain. If I can ease that, even temporarily, isn't that worth something?" Misuk regarded me silently for a long moment. "You speak well for an English teacher," she finally said. "But pretty words don't change reality. My son is making a mistake." "Perhaps," I conceded. "But it's his mistake to make, and Minho's heart to give." The lunch that followed was excruciating, Misuk alternating between pointed questions about my background and icy silence. Junho fielded most of her interrogation with practiced ease, his hand occasionally covering mine in a gesture that felt surprisingly natural. Minho, oblivious to the tension, chattered happily about our fort building and his dinosaur collection, beaming whenever Junho and I exchanged glances or small touches. It struck me, watching him, how easily children believe what they want to believe. How desperately they create narratives where adults love each other, where families stay together, where everything works out in the end. I wondered if Junho and I were cruel to feed that fantasy, knowing it was built on lies. Or if the comfort of that fantasy, however temporary, was worth the inevitable pain when reality reasserted itself. As we left, Misuk pulled me aside while Junho helped Minho with his coat. "You think I'm a villain in your fairy tale," she said in surprisingly good English. "The wicked mother-in-law opposing true love." "I don't think that at all," I replied honestly. "Good, because this isn't a fairy tale. It's my son using a pretty foreigner to provoke me and give Minho false hope." Her eyes were hard but not unkind. "When Minho dies, and he will die, the doctors have been clear, my son will shatter. Again. And you will be gone, back to your American life while I pick up the pieces. Again." The brutal honesty of her assessment left me speechless. "So enjoy playing house, Miss Johnson," Misuk continued. "Enjoy my grandson's affection and my son's gratitude. But remember that temporary comfort often leads to permanent pain." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving me with the uncomfortable feeling that perhaps, in her own harsh way, Kang Misuk was the only one being truly honest about our situation.